A man works a regular job during the day and spends his nights playing video games. His unhealthy lifestyle catches up to him, and he dies from a heart attack.
Oh no, is that gonna be me? I pull at least 3 all-nighters a week playing WoW.
But his story doesn't end there. He wakes up in what seems like an old room and wonders if he's in a hospital. Things get strange when he sees a flying dog. Even more surprising, when he looks at himself in the mirror, he realizes he's now a baby. His new name is Ars. 3 years later, Ars understands the truth. He died and was reborn in a new world. Once the shock wore off, he started learning how to read, write, and understand this world around him. This new world is not Earth. It's a magical place ruled by the Summerforth Empire, which controls the whole continent. In this world, magic is real and lets people do amazing things, almost like a video game. Ars, now part of a noble family called Louvent, lives in a big house in a place called Lambert. The house has lots of servants and even a personal chef. Ars feels lucky. Being born again is like winning a big prize. Over the years, Ars learns he has a special ability that no one else has. He can appraise people. This lets him see their skills and talent. One day, while watching soldiers practice, Ars uses his power on a soldier named Millis and sees he has a great talent for archery. Curious, Ars asks Millis if he's ever tried using a bow, but Millis laughs and says real men fight up close. Ars, keeping his power a secret, urges Millis to give it a try. Millis agrees reluctantly, and to everyone's surprise, he hits the target perfectly the first time. He keeps hitting the mark, showing it wasn't just luck. The soldiers are amazed and encourage Millis to become an archer. When they ask how Ars knew, he just says he had a feeling. Ars decides to keep his ability a secret because he doubts anyone would believe him if he said he could see people's stats like in a game. At dinner that evening, Ars meets his scary father, Raven, who is known for being a great warrior. Using his ability, Ars sees how strong Raven is. He could defeat 10 men on his own. Raven tells Ars to trust his instincts, as they will help him when he becomes the Lord of Lambert. Ars realizes the big responsibility he will have. The Empire is falling apart, with corruption and uprisings everywhere. He worries that, as Lord, he might have to lead soldiers into battle. But he wants to protect Lamberg and its kind people. One day, Ars has an idea. He goes into town and uses his power to appraise the people there. It's tiring, but he learns a lot. While doing this, he sees a boy being treated badly. The boy, who is part of a group called the Malson, is pushed out of a shop. The Malson are looked down on because they were brought to the Empire as slaves. Ars ignores the crowd and gives the boy some bread. To his surprise, when he appraises the boy, he sees that the boy has incredible skills, like one of Japan's greatest historical figures, Oda Nobunaga. Ars realizes this boy could change the future. The boy thanks Ars for the bread and starts to leave, but Ars decides to follow him. The boy, named Reich, warns Ars not to because the townspeople might get angry. But Ars surprises Reich by asking him to be his retainer. Ars wants to gather the most talented people he can find using his appraisal ability, making his domain stronger. Ars tells Reich he is the son of the local lord and sees great potential in him. Reich, confused, reminds him they just met. Since Ars can't tell him about his power, he says it's just a feeling. Reich points out that he's a Malson and doesn't want to cause trouble, but Ars insists he will handle it. Reich still refuses, but Ars is determined not to let someone so talented slip away. When Ars notices Reich is hungry, he invites him to his house for a nice meal. But the prejudice against the Malson becomes clear when the chef only gives Reich beans, and the servants tell him to leave when he's done. Seeing this, Ars shocks everyone by offering to share his meal with Reich. The servants try to stop him, but Ars firmly tells them that Reich is his guest. Embarrassed, they apologize and bring Reich more food. As they eat, Reich talks about his past. He used to be in a mercenary group, but it broke apart after most of the group members died in battle. Since then, he's been wandering because no one will hire a young Malson with no big achievements. Ars feels sorry for Reich, understanding how tough it must have been for him to lose the only family he ever had. When the meal finishes, the servants try to make Reich leave, but Ars refuses and says he's decided to make Reich his retainer. The servants argue, saying that Ars' father, Raven, will never agree to this. Sure enough, when Ars tells Raven, he faces strong opposition. Raven thinks it's a silly idea, saying the Malsen are inferior to people from Summerforth. He doesn't believe a Malsen could have special skills. Ars, disappointed by his father's bias, stands his ground. He knows Reich's potential and believes he could be important for Lamberg's future. To settle things, Ars suggests a test to prove Reich's abilities. Raven, remembering his son's instincts, agrees but sets the challenge. Reich will fight him in a mock duel. If Reich can land even one hit, he'll be allowed to join as a soldier. Although this is not as high a position as being Ars' retainer, Ars is sure Reich will rise quickly. When Ars learns Reich will have to fight Raven directly, he's shocked. Raven is too strong, and even with some help, Ars doubts Reich can win. Reich is unsure too, thinking Ars is just helping him out of pity. Ars reassures him, saying he's not doing this as charity. He really needs Reich. One day, when Ars becomes the Lord of Lamberg, he wants Reich by his side. Moved by Ars' words, Reich promises to do his best. The duel begins, and the other soldiers watch in disbelief. A Malsen fighting Raven? It seems impossible. Raven explains that Reich only needs to land one strike before time runs out to win. They both take practice swords and the match starts. Reich quickly feels the strength of Raven. Even though it's just practice, it feels like Raven could defeat him in one strike. Reich struggles to keep up with Raven's fast and precise move. Ars starts to lose hope, thinking the gap between them is too big. But to everyone's surprise, Reich keeps fighting. The soldiers are amazed. Raven usually wins easily, even when holding back. But Reich is managing to stand his ground, and they start to see how skilled he might be. The soldiers are stunned as they watch Reich keep up with Raven. This isn't just luck or Raven going easy. He's giving it his all, and Reich is still holding his ground. But eventually, Raven's superior skill forces Reich back, and the soldiers start to doubt he'll land a single blow on the greatest swordsman alive. With time running out, Reich remembers Ars' encouraging words and decides to give everything he has. Ars notices the change in Reich's expression, now filled with confidence. Reich charges forward, but Raven can predict his every move. The crowd gasps as Reich almost lands a blow, but Raven ends the fight. Reich protests, saying there's still a little time left. But Raven explains the fight is over for a different reason. Reich's blade actually grazed him. The crowd realizes Reich has won. As promised, Raven agrees to let Reich join as a soldier, recognizing his natural talent. Raven also praises Ars, saying his ability to spot potential is amazing, almost like a special power. He expresses new confidence in Ars' future, even joking that Ars might rise higher than expected and aim for the throne someday, though he quickly dismisses this as unrealistic for the lord of a small domain. Still, he's proud of Ars for showing he could be a great leader. Reich's performance earns the respect of the soldiers, who start asking for his advice on fighting techniques. Meanwhile, Ars is amazed by how much Reich has grown in such a short time. Reich, grateful for what Ars has done for him, begins helping around the house, doing servant tasks along with his military training. He promises to do his best for Ars, feeling thankful for saving him from the street. He swears to repay Ars' kindness, and Ars feels hopeful about building the strongest domain with allies like Reich. One day, Reich leads Ars' history lesson, explaining how the Summerforth Empire was formed. The empire used to be 7 separate kingdoms, but one, Anil, grew powerful enough to conquer the others. Anil's king, King Anthus, crowned himself emperor and renamed the continent after his kingdom. However, the empire is now facing a huge problem. The current ruler is an 8-year-old child named Byrus, who is just a figurehead. The real power is in the hands of his warring advisors. As the empire's leadership falls apart, revolts are starting to spread. Though they are still small, even Raven has had to send soldiers to stop them. Ars worries this situation could get worse, so he decides to use his appraisal ability to find talented people who can help. Reich points out that trouble might start in their region mission. The local governor is old and sick, and his 2 sons are fighting over who should take his place. Raven thinks the oldest son should take over, but since Raven is a vassal of the Canary district, he doesn't have any say in mission's leadership. The idea of war makes Ars uneasy. Reich, however, sees it as an opportunity. A lord who proves himself in a big conflict can gain power and respect. Encouraged by Reich's positive outlook, Ars agrees to focus on getting stronger. Together, They promise to gather the best people to secure Lamberg's future, with Reich vowing to protect Ars and help him build the strongest domain. As Ars and Reich travel into town, Ars notices that his father, Raven, has been training more than usual. It's clear he's preparing for the chance of war. Ars shares his plan to find more talented people, and Raven suggests looking for someone skilled in magic. While Raven and his aides can use magic, they aren't very strong at it. Ars remembers the one time his father had him try using magic, but his attempt was so bad that Raven never asked again. Determined to strengthen their forces, Ars is now set on finding the best mage. Their journey takes them to the capital of the Canary District, a big city with 50,000 people. Ars is amazed by how rich and well-dressed the people are. He dreams of bringing this level of wealth and comfort to Lamberg. Reich assures him that with so many people, they're bound to find someone with incredible talent. Ars uses his special ability to evaluate the townspeople, hoping to find someone amazing. His ability shows people's stats and skills in numbers, but he quickly realizes that high stats alone aren't enough. Aptitude matters just as much. After checking many people, Ars can't find anyone promising, and he starts to feel disappointed. Reich notices and reminds him that there's no need to rush. There's still time to find the right people. While wandering, Ars stumbles into a hidden alley and is shocked to see people living in poverty, a sharp contrast to the wealth he saw earlier. Reich explains that even in rich towns, poverty is common. Inequality, he says, is part of the world. This reminds Ars of Reich's own hard past. Although Ars feels like he can't help them right now, he promises to one day create a town where even the poor can live better lives. Reich admires his determination and tells him he's already making a difference. Later, they visit the biggest market in the capital. Ars gets excited when a merchant offers him a rare dragon egg for just 1 silver coin. He can't believe dragons exist in this world and almost reaches for his money. But Reich stops him, calling the merchant a fraud. He explains that real dragon eggs are much bigger and have a different pattern. These are just giant lizard eggs. The merchant's trick makes Reich angry, and he's ready to punish him, but Ars stops him and keeps things calm. Ars realizes he needs to be more careful to avoid unnecessary trouble. While they're taking a break to grab a snack, Ars feels a small bump and realizes his money pouch is gone. Reich spots the thief running away, and they chase after them. The thief is fast and hard to catch, but Reich grabs their coat. To their surprise, the thief is a young girl. The girl dashes into a narrow alley, but her escape is cut short when a group of thugs starts to rough her up. Ars steps in, trying to stop them, but they turn on him instead. Before they can do anything, Reich swiftly takes care of them, sending them running in fear. Ars checks on the girl, and to his surprise, his ability reveals her incredible stats. Her aptitude for magic is an unprecedented S rank. Her potential for leadership and combat is also shockingly high, almost on par with his father's. Ars immediately realizes she's an extraordinary find. However, before he can speak further, Reich demands that the girl return Ars's money. Instead of focusing on the theft, Ars makes a bold offer. He asks her to become his retainer. Reich is shocked, reminding Ars that she's a thief. But Ars insists that her talent is unmatched. The girl remains unfazed, flatly refusing. She says she'd rather die than serve someone like Ars, claiming she has never used magic and doesn't believe in her supposed abilities. Sensing her bitterness toward nobles, Ars changes his approach. He suspects her thieving is a result of a hard life, so he offers her a steady income and regular meals if she agrees to join him. The girl, however, isn't convinced. She accuses Ars of being just another privileged noble who's never known hardship. To her, nobles have no right to look down on others just because of their birth. Ars tells the girl that he's not like the nobles she hates and wants to create a town where people like her can live safely. He admits he needs her help, but she doesn't believe him. She thinks his plan is far off and that he just wants to look kind. Before he can explain, Reich interrupts and asks her to return the money they gave her. Reluctantly, she does, not wanting to owe them. Ars notices a strange mark on her wrist, and she shares her story of being sold to a slave trader after being caught sneaking into a noble's house. She escaped, but the men Ars and Reich fought were sent to capture her. Ars suggests she leave the town for safety, but she refuses. A group of orphans runs to her, and she explains they have no one else. Ars understands and agrees not to ask for her help. He gives her his pouch of money, telling her it's hers, and she warns him he can't ask for it back. She calls him a weirdo and leaves with the children. Later, Ars reflects on her life. Reich suggests that Charlotte hates nobles because of the hardships she's faced. Ars realizes he's been taking his privilege for granted. Then, the orphans return to tell him Charlotte has been captured. A flashback shows Charlotte's painful past. As a child, she stopped crying due to the harsh treatment she faced, and by now, she's lost all hope. In the present, she's beaten by the traitors' men, who can't make her cry. When they find the money Ars gave her, she tries to take it back, but they punish her. The traitor says she has no future because of her past. Just then, Reich bursts in, easily defeating the goons. Charlotte is surprised to see them, and the traitor tries to intimidate Ars, but Ars, revealing himself as a noble, gets furious. Charlotte tells him to stay out of it, but Ars realizes she has lost all hope. The traitor mocks her, saying she has no future. Ars insists that children's futures should be their own, not taken away. Charlotte remembers how she stopped crying to survive. But now, for the first time in years, she wonders if things could change. Reich defeats the remaining goons, warning them not to defy Lord Ars. The traitor calls for his strongest fighter, but Reich easily defeats him. The traitor, realizing defeat, admits that the head of the Canary district supports the slave trade. Ars surprises him by saying he'll buy Charlotte. The traitor agrees reluctantly. Later, Ars offers to take Charlotte back to the orphans, but she wants to visit a special place first. In a beautiful spot in the forest, Charlotte reveals it's her secret place and tells Ars she's been thinking about his vision of a town where everyone can live safely. She asks why he's so determined. Ars says he loves children, believing their smiles give him hope and that hope can make a better world. Charlotte teases him, but she begins to see his seriousness. She agrees to become his retainer, not for herself but for the orphans, hoping to give them the future Ars dreams of. Reich shows them a magical artifact and tests Charlotte's abilities. She's never used magic before, but when she tries, the spell lights up the sky and breaks the artifact. Ars and Reich are impressed, and Charlotte feels confident for the first time. She agrees to work as Ars's retainer, asking her salary to go to the orphans. Ars agrees. As they leave the forest, Charlotte promises to help make Ars's dream come true. She calls him Lord Ars for the first time. Ars tells her not to be so formal, and she laughs, apologizing for taking their money earlier. Ars is just thinking about getting home to eat. Later, during a meal, Charlotte struggles with manners. Reich insists she needs to learn if she's going to eat with Ars. Not everyone accepts Charlotte. Raven doubts her place until Ars shows her magic skills. Charlotte becomes known as Levant's Lady of Flames, and with her leading the mage troops, they become a strong part of the army. Ars grows closer to his family, learning his younger siblings have great potential. Reich tells Ars about a family of hunters with two talented sons, Duz and Marcus. Ars decides to meet them, bringing Charlotte along. They stop when they see the brothers hunting. Duz is good with infantry, and Marcus excels with archery. After a meal, Ars invites them to join House Louvent. Their father is impressed by Ars's maturity. When their younger son, Russell, sneaks food, everyone notices his hair is different from his brother's. Ars checks Russell's abilities and sees immense potential, especially for creativity. He asks Russell's father if he can take Russell as a retainer. Russell is hesitant, thinking he'll only cause trouble. His father explains Russell has struggled since his mother died, unlike his brothers. Ars reassures Russell, offering him the chance to explore the Levant library. Russell agrees and is amazed by the books, starting to read everything he can find. Reich tells Ars that Russell has quickly learned and is picking up difficult ideas. Russell's ingenuity stat increases after hours of reading, surprising his brothers who never learned to read. Russell remembers learning to read when his mother read to him and even remembers the day he was born. Ars realizes Russell's intelligence is an asset. Reich suggests showing the family how Russell's brain could help with hunting. Russell builds a trap for Suze, ensuring it doesn't hurt baby Suze, impressing his father. Russell's talent becomes clear, but his father still wants him to go hunting with his brothers. Russell feels rejected but agrees to stay with Ars. That night, he overhears his father admit he feels guilty for not seeing Russell's potential sooner. The next day, Russell decides to go with Ars to grow and improve, not out of anger but a desire to learn. His father promises to wait for him. Russell's brothers thank Ars, and Russell promises to do his best. Ars is proud of the new family unity. Later, Raven becomes very sick, and Ars offers to take over the leadership in the next battle. Raven explains the governor of the nearby province of Mission has died, and his sons are in conflict. The neighboring province of Seats is taking advantage. Ars realizes he may need to fight soon. Raven surprises Ars by casually mentioning that he has arranged a marriage for him. Ars is shocked and overwhelmed when his fiancée, Leisha, arrives. He's surprised by her gentle demeanor and high stats: diplomacy, 100, ambition, 80. Ars worries her ambition means she's planning something, but when she blushes under his gaze, he begins to soften. The moment is interrupted when her butler disrespects Reich, but Leisha forces him to apologize. At dinner, Leisha points out when Ars has food on his face. Leisha predicts the rain will stop soon, which it does, leading Ars to wonder if she has weather control powers. Russell and Charlotte feel something's off about her. After the rain clears, Ars takes Leisha around Lamberg, where the townspeople greet her warmly. An argument breaks out, and Ars tries to step in, but Leisha diffuses the situation with her diplomacy. She offers to buy the materials they were fighting over and provide resources from her homeland at a fair price. The deal satisfies everyone, and Leisha surprises Ars by giving him credit for the idea. Ars quickly sets a rule that future negotiations require contract. Later, Charlotte admits Leisha handled things well but still doesn't approve of the marriage, leaving Ars confused. Leisha asks Ars what kind of person he likes. Ars is suspicious, thinking it's part of a plan, but Leisha's sincerity catches him off guard. He honestly answers that he likes people who speak their mind. Leisha says she'll remember that, and Ars isn't sure what to make of the conversation. Later, Leisha sneaks into Ars's room to talk openly. She asks what he really thinks of her, revealing she can read people's emotions. She admits she's been trying to win his trust but struggles because he's suspicious of her ambition. Leisha says her goal is to make an extraordinary man fall in love with her, which she finds embarrassing. Ars says, "That's wonderful," and realizes it makes sense for her. She reassures him that if she didn't think he was worthy, she would have ended the engagement. But now, she really wants to marry him. Ars is shocked but feels moved. Outside, Leisha reflects on her boldness, realizing that Ars's kindness made her change her opinion about marriage. She now wants to protect him and keep anyone who might harm him away. Over time, Ars and Leisha exchange letters. Leisha writes about how Ars never responded to her declaration of love, but she's not pressuring him. At 11 years old, Ars faces challenges as Raven's health worsens. Political tensions rise as a governor is assassinated, making the succession conflict worse. Raven, despite being sick, predicts that Mission will soon be at war, and Lamberg will side with Kieran, the older brother. When a message arrives from the Canary District, Reich offers to go, but Ars insists on going himself. At the Canary District, the guards doubt Ars because of his age, but they recognize Charlotte and Reich and let them through. They meet Minos, a servant of Lamir, the district head. Lamir praises House Louvent for its strength and encourages them to prove themselves. Afterward, Hammond, Leisha's father, speaks to Ars about how Leisha is upset because he hasn't responded to her letters. Ars apologizes and promises to reply soon. Hammond admits he didn't like Ars at first, but now he sees that Leisha is happy and hopes Ars will take care of her. Back home, Ars updates Raven on the meeting and the decision to support Kieran. Ars worries his father might be angry for going without permission, but Raven surprises him by praising how well he handled things. Ars writes a letter to Leisha, apologizing for the delay and assuring her that her father cares for her. He promises to protect her and their future. Determined to grow stronger for the war, Ars trains hard with Reich. During a sparring match, Reich accidentally knocks Ars down, but Ars insists on training harder. He worries that, as a leader, he needs to be able to endure and show strength in the face of war. When Russell informs him of the province of Seat's movements, Ars resolves to lead the troops in his father's place, despite his fear. Raven insists Ars is not ready for battle, explaining he lacks the face of a warrior. To prove himself, Ars must witness the execution of Baram Mora, a criminal responsible for horrific crimes. Ars trembles with disgust, but Raven reassures him that this reaction is normal, though a leader cannot show such weakness. Raven decides to lead the battle himself. Despite his illness, Raven fights bravely and manages to take the fortress with the Canary District forces. The battle lasts a month, and Raven returns severely weakened just after Ars's 12th birthday. Ars feels guilty for not being strong enough, but Reich reassures him that Raven's decline was due to his illness, not the battle. Ars continues to train relentlessly, determined to protect everyone like his father did. Leisha arrives at Lamberg, noticing a change in Ars's letters. Concerned, she asks the retainers what's wrong. They assure her that Ars has his reasons, and she chooses not to speak with him during his training. Later, they learn that Raven has regained consciousness. Raven speaks with the retainers as a father, asking them to support Ars like a father would, not just as a lord. Raven, nearing death, regrets not showing Ars the harsh realities of war sooner. He asks his retainers to protect Ars, and they all vow to support him. Russell promises to do anything to help, Charlotte swears loyalty to Ars, and Reich pledges to fight for him. Reich informs Leisha that Raven wants to speak with her. Raven tells Leisha that he had arranged her engagement to Ars because he thought she'd be a good partner. Raven is relieved when Leisha reassures him that she loves Ars deeply. Afterward, Raven asks to see Ars and shares his past struggles.
私は村を飛び出し、おぼろげな記憶だが、壮大さに剣の練習をし、兵士になり、時が経つのは早いものだ。
Urging him to protect Lamberg after his death. The next day, Raven passes away. Ars and his siblings bid farewell. Ars promises to take care of Lamberg and asks for everyone's support. He declares that, as of that day, he is the head of House Louvent. 3 months later, Ars, now officially in charge, speaks to his father's grave, vowing to do his best. The lords gather to honor Raven and acknowledge Ars's new leadership. The war between the brothers intensifies, with the younger brother controlling the capital and the older brother controlling a trading city. Pania, a key district, refuses to cooperate, and conquering it becomes necessary. However, Ars proposes a different approach, surprising everyone. Russell grows suspicious of the enemy's movements, and Reich agrees. They decide to gather more intel from a mercenary group called Shadow. Ars convinces the lords to give him time to investigate the situation. Ars then visits Charlotte's orphanage, where the children thank him for changing their lives. Leah appears at the orphanage, joining the children's game, and Ars admires her. Later, Ars and his group plan to meet with Shadow, and Leah insists on joining despite the danger. Ars reluctantly agrees. Charlotte jokes about Ars staying in her room, creating an awkward moment when Reich arrives. The next morning, the boys are exhausted because Charlotte tossed and turned all night. Reich reveals that Shadow has agreed to meet them. Shadow is known for covert operations, intelligence, and even assassination, and Ars is shocked by their skills. Ree expresses concern about the new leader of Shadow, a young but highly capable man who only accepts jobs that interest him. Reich isn't sure what kind of jobs the leader likes, but since Lord Lummer is counting on them, Ars decides to make sure the mercenaries take the job. They arrive at the bar to meet the mercenaries but are told to leave because it's too full. Ars is surprised when Ree says a secret phrase, and they are allowed in. Everyone in the bar stares at them, and Charlotte jokes about using a fire spell to roast them all, but they stop her. Instead, they just order drinks. Ars thinks that since Shadow is good at gathering information, the leader is probably watching them. He tries to use his ability to find the leader, but the others remind him to focus on ordering. When he looks at the waitress, he's shocked to see her stats, 90 strength and 90 skill, which are amazing. But the biggest surprise is when he realizes the waitress is actually a 22-year-old man. Just then, the waitress pulls a knife on Ars and asks how he figured it out. Reich steps in and saves Ars. Reich is mad and wonders how the man knew to attack. The man is confused about how Reich showed up to help, and Ars is also confused. Leah arrives and says that after the way the leader treated Ars, he can't refuse the job now. The leader still thinks about refusing, but wonders what they'd do if he did. He thinks about using tricks to get rid of Ars and run away, but Leah tells him that if Reich is with them, the leader won't be able to escape. Ars realizes, shocked, that the others are negotiating without him. The leader still considers refusing, but Lisa steps in and says she's angry at him for talking about getting rid of Ars. She warns him that if he tries, she will chase him down and stop him. Ars, scared, watches as the leader laughs and apologizes for his rudeness. However, he still wants to know how Ars figured out his true identity, since he thought his disguise was perfect. Ars says he has a skill that lets him see people's abilities. The leader doesn't believe it at first, but Ars proves it by calling him by his old name, Mayak. The leader, now known as Pham, admits he gave up that name a long time ago, but since Ars knew it, he believes Ars really has the skill. Pham agrees to take the job, but hopes to never make Alicia angry again. Ars points out that Pham doesn't know the details of the job yet, but Pham says he already knows everything. He says he judges people by the company they keep, and since Ars is with strong people like Reich and Leah, he knows Ars is trustworthy. Pham says working with Ars is like betting on a winner. Leah explains that when Ars looked at the waitress, he must have realized it was the leader in disguise. That's why they decided to follow him. Ars thanks Pham for saving his life and thinks about how reliable Leah is. When Ars explains the job, Pham surprises him by charging only 1 gold, saying it's their first job together. Ars is amazed that Pham can finish the task in just 5 days, but Pham says it's his specialty. 5 days later, Pham comes back in disguise as a waitress and brings Charlotte pancakes. Ars is surprised because he never would have guessed the waitress was the leader of Shadow if he hadn't seen his stats. Later, Ars meets Pham alone, since the other Shadow members are on a mission. Pham says he did the investigation by himself and tells Ars that his great skill is why he's the leader of Shadow. Ars is impressed, but still curious about how Pham did the job so quickly. Pham explains that Pina District won't side with Lord Chiron because they're in a pact with Lord Vizari. He shows Ars a document with signatures of the nobles who support Vizari, including the seal of the Massa District, which has a big population and strong military. This means Massa has turned against Chiron and is now supporting Vizari. Reich is shocked when he sees the seal and understands the importance of the document. If Pina is attacked, Massa might attack from behind, which makes things worse. Pham thinks Pina knew this and decided that siding with Chiron would be too risky, which is why they refused to help. Reich asks how Pham got the document and wants him to prove it's real, but Pham refuses to say how he got it, even to his trusted allies. He says he got it from where the headmen live. After hearing this, Reich apologizes for doubting Pham. After finishing his task, Pham lets Ars take the document. Ars gets ready to pay him, but Pham says no, telling Ars it's an apology for how he treated him earlier. He sees it as an investment in their future work together. Ars thanks Fam and promises to pay extra for the next job. With the document, Ars and Reich get ready to tell Lord Lummer about Massa's betrayal. Lummer is shocked by the news and realizes convincing Pina to join them won't be easy. He has Minos show the forged pact to the other lords and thanks Ars for helping them avoid a big mistake. Lummer decides to talk to Kieran and asks Ars to help. However, Minos points out something strange. The signature and seal of Massa on the pact don't match the real ones. He compares them to the real seal, and it's clear the seal is forged. All the other seals are real, but Massa's isn't. Pina had been tricked into thinking Massa betrayed them, which is why they sided with Vas Marquis. Ars is impressed by Minos's skill, realizing that while his own ability shows stats, it doesn't show special skills like Minos's. Ars wonders why the lie was pushed so hard, since it could have been found out later. The others think the lie was meant to buy time. If they attacked Pina, they could have won, but it would have taken a while because Pina is strong. The real goal seems to be getting Pina on their side for now, as they think of the district as disposable. Ars and the others think the real prize is Explosion Magus stones, rare stones that only Pina and 3 other districts have. These stones are valuable because they can be used for powerful magic and weapons. Vas Marquis must be after these stones, and attacking Pina would play into their hands. The only option left is to tell Pina the truth and win them over, but the problem is that all previous messengers sent to Pina have been turned away. Later, Ars decides to meet Pina's headman directly. To everyone's surprise, Ars tells the headman that he knows about the pact and says that Lamberg wants to join Vas Marquis too. He pretends not to know that Massa's signature is forged and acts like Lamberg is on Vas Marquis' side. The headman is glad to see that Lamberg is being led by someone capable and assures Ars that Lamberg will be accepted into Vas Marquis' side. But Ars has some questions. When he asks about Massa's betrayal, the headman says the pact is real and was given to him by Vas Marquis. Ars keeps questioning, asking why Massa's headman, who was loyal to Chiron, would suddenly betray him. The headman argues that betrayal happens in war, but Ars keeps pressing, saying that siding with Vas Marquis would leave Massa surrounded. This makes the headman realize that something isn't right. He orders Ars to be arrested, but Reich steps in to protect him. Ars tells the headman they're not here to fight but explains that he brought Massa's headman to explain himself. This plan was Russell's idea. They showed the forged document to Massa's headman, who was angry to find out his signature was fake. He agrees to write a letter for Ars to take to Pina's headman. Furious, Massa's headman says he will go to Pina himself to tell them the truth. When he gets to Pina, Massa's headman says he's been loyal to Lord Chiron from the start and will continue to serve him. He asks if Pina will still side with Vas Marquis, but the Pina headman, after hearing the truth, says he wants to side with Chiron instead. However, he's unsure if Chiron will accept them back. Massa's headman, with strong leadership, assures Pina's headman that he understands the responsibility of protecting his people. He also asks how Pina's headman didn't check the truth of the pact. Ars is impressed by Massa's headman's leadership and realizes he has a lot to learn. Massa's headman credits Ars for bringing the truth out and says it's up to Pina's headman whether to join them. Ars acknowledges that Pina's headman was tricked but doesn't want to judge him harshly for it. Ars is happy they solved things without fighting. He says that Pina and Massa can now be allies, and the headman of Pina agrees to serve them. Ars thanks the Massa headman for resolving the issue peacefully. The Massa headman appreciates Ars for seeing through the enemy's plan and is relieved that the Canary district has strong leadership now. Later, Ars talks to his father and shares that Vas Marquis has gotten a lot of Explosion Magus stones from Pina. Reich and Russell join, and Ars thanks them for helping without anyone getting hurt. Reich notices something's on Ars' mind, but Ars says he knows what he needs to do, even though it will be hard. He thinks about the headmen he met, all trying to protect their people, and he wants to be a strong leader like them. But without his friends' support, he feels weak. Reich reassures him, saying they will always be there for him and that he should just do what feels right. Then, Ars learns that Lord Lamir is at Raven's grave. Lamir says that Lord Kieran wants to meet with Ars. Ars is surprised because he's just a small leader, and Kieran is very powerful. Lamir explains that Kieran has heard about what happened and is interested in Ars. Ars agrees to meet him, though he's shocked when Lamir says they are meeting right away. His friends encourage him, saying it's a great chance, and Ars says he's ready. Meanwhile, Charlotte is getting ready for a party but finds out everyone has already left, leaving her behind to guard the house. Reich decides to bring her a gift. Ars is still in shock about meeting Lord Kieran, thinking this could help him move up in the world. Kieran has invited many powerful people, and the party seems like a way to raise morale before the war. Ars doesn't like the idea of a fancy party but tells himself not to mess it up. Slar City is huge, and Ars hopes to get Lamberg to that level someday. Reich reminds him that this party is a chance to get his name out there. At the party, everyone is curious about Ars, and a crowd gathers around him because of Lamir's influence. Then, the crowd focuses on Kieran, who is about to enter. Ars is amazed by Kieran's presence and uses his skill to check Kieran's stats. He's amazed at Kieran's leadership score of 99 and understands why Lummer sides with him. Ars wonders how impressive Kieran's brother, Vas Marquis, must be if people say he's even better than Kieran. Ars feels like someone might be spreading rumors to hurt Kieran, suggesting something bad is going on. Kieran speaks to the crowd, saying that his father's death has caused big problems in the Mission province. The biggest threat is his younger brother, Vas Marquis, who wants to take Kieran's place as ruler. Kieran says that the Summerforth Empire can't help anymore because it's too weak, so it's up to them to fix things. He shocks everyone by saying he wants to defeat Vas Marquis, unite the Mission province, and create a new nation independent from the Empire. Ars didn't know Kieran wanted independence, and Kieran admits it won't be easy, but he's confident they can do it if they work together and asks for their help. The lords cheer. Then Kieran calls Ars up, introduces them, and tells Ars to stand by him so everyone can see him. Kieran explains that Vas Marquis made a fake pact, and it was Ars who stopped him. Everyone is surprised that a young boy stopped Vas Marquis' plan, but Kieran says age doesn't matter. What matters is what you do, and Ars has done more than anyone else at the party. Kieran asks everyone to applaud Ars, and Ars thanks them humbly. While the party continues, Reich brings Ars a big plate of food, explaining that Ars hasn't had time to eat with all the meetings. Ars is given food but feels off and steps outside for some fresh air. He thinks about how being a lord isn't just about protecting his land. He also has to build relationships and socialize. As he's reflecting, Kieran comes to check on him. He's heard that Ars is gathering talented people and doing impressive things. Kieran, who rarely hears Lamir praise anyone, thinks Ars must have a good eye for talent. Ars, being humble, says his subordinates are the real talent. But when Ars reveals that none of his retainers seem especially talented, Kieran assumes Ars thinks his own men are more skilled. Ars agrees with him. Kieran laughs, saying his men are loyal and motivated but lack raw talent, which will be a problem in the upcoming war since the enemy has many clever people. Kieran believes that even though he has a stronger military and more money, it won't matter much if the leadership isn't good enough. He expresses relief that he's found new talent in Ars and puts high hopes on him. Kieran then says if Ars performs well and they win the war, he will make him the headman of the Canary district. Ars is shocked and worries about Lamir, but Kieran reassures him, saying he's been planning to give Lamir a larger territory. Kieran also asks if he can have Ars retainers, but understands when Ars says they are very important to him. Kieran invites Ars to the next war council and asks for his help finding more talented people. Ars can't believe Kieran is depending on him but promises to do his best. Meanwhile, Vas Marquis hears that their plan to weaken Kieran's forces has failed. However, they've still collected many Magus stones, so if war breaks out, they'll win easily. but Vas Marquis refuses to fight unless victory is certain. He asks about Muriel and learns that she's probably drunk somewhere. Vas Marquis decides he wants her by his side, even though his subordinates warn him against it. He believes Muriel has the right skills, even though no lord wants to hire her because of her reputation as a drunk. He hopes it's the right choice. Back with Ars, Charlotte gets her gift and is surprised to hear that Kieran wants her to attend the War Council. Ars is also tasked with finding talent for Kieran, so he asks Reich if he knows a faster way to do so. They decide to ask Fam for help. Fam agrees to find candidates and promises to bring them to Ars. Fam jokes that he'll be rewarded with 20 gold if he finds someone really talented, and Ars trusts him to do a good job. Later, while walking through town, Ars is bumped into by a drunk woman who apologizes. She walks into Fam's bar, where Fam immediately notices her. The woman says she's not there for food but for a job, but the bar owner refuses. Fam thinks it's a great idea and convinces the owner to let her work there, even though the owner is unsure. Fam introduces himself as Lin, and Muriel is thrilled to be hired. That night, Muriel makes several mistakes while working, including bringing the wrong orders. She also drinks on the job, frustrating the customers. Muriel is exhausted after her first day, but the bar owner refuses to give her a free meal because of her poor performance. Fam reassures her, wondering how she made money before. Muriel says she used to do odd jobs but doesn't like to stay in one place. Fam asks about her past, but Muriel warns him not to pry. She says her little brother and she used to work for an old man, who was the former governor of Mission. This shocks the owner, but Muriel says she prefers wandering and refuses to talk more about her past. Fam offers her a better job, but Muriel doesn't seem interested in the details. Back with Ars, he's surprised that Fam found someone so quickly. The group is unsure about this, so Ars decides to meet Muriel. When she's introduced, Ars recognizes her as the drunk woman he bumped into earlier. Muriel doesn't remember the encounter and still seems drunk. Reich is skeptical, thinking Fam might be playing a joke, but Fam insists that Muriel is skilled. Muriel comments on how interesting everyone is, so Ars uses his appraisal ability on her. He's stunned by her high stats, especially her ingenuity. Reich warns Ars that Muriel is infamous for her past as an advisor to the late governor, but rumors say she was kicked out. Worse, her younger brother, Thomas, is a top general and the right-hand man to their enemy, Vas Marquis. Reich is worried that Muriel might be a spy, but she denies any connection to her brother. Despite Reich's concerns, Ars decides to trust her and hires Muriel, believing she's worth the risk. Even though her high ambition stat worries him, the others reluctantly agree with Ars's decision, and Muriel is happy to get the chance. But soon, things go wrong. Muriel neglects her duties, and the troops complain she doesn't give clear orders. When Reich confronts her, Muriel says she just doesn't feel like doing anything sometimes. Reich is convinced that Muriel isn't fit to be a retainer. Meanwhile, Russell complains that Muriel has him running errands instead of teaching him from books as promised. Ars thinks Muriel has a reason for her actions and plans to talk to her. But before he can, there are sudden loud explosions. They prepare for battle, but it turns out to be Charlotte showing off her magic attacks to Muriel. Charlotte proudly says she can do more damage if she lets loose, and Muriel is eager to see that. Ars wishes Charlotte would be more careful, and Muriel apologizes for not warning anyone. Though relieved that it's not an attack, the group is exhausted by Muriel's antics. They look to Ars for guidance, and he says there will be consequences if things don't change. Surprisingly, Muriel admits she doesn't want to leave and says no one has shown such interest in her like Ars did. She decides to prove herself and suggests a mock battle to show her worth. Ars thinks it might be too much, but to his surprise, Reich agrees it's a good idea. Ars is uncertain but agrees to prepare for the mock battle. Leisha is present during the preparations and mentions that Ars had written about Muriel in his letters, calling her a brilliant strategist who eats all their food but doesn't do any work. Muriel is upset by this description but forgives Ars, joking that they should get married. Ars is terrified by the idea, especially since Leisha doesn't like it, making a strange noise. Ars quickly changes the subject and explains the rules of the mock battle. 2 teams of 50 troops will face off, and the goal is to defeat the enemy general or wipe out the whole team. They'll use wooden swords, and getting hit in the head or chest means you're out. Charlotte can't use her flame magic, but Ars gives her water magic instead, which won't hurt anyone. When it's time to pick teams, Ars is shocked that everyone wants to face him and Muriel. The rookie troops are placed on Ars's side to balance things out, but they're not confident about winning. Muriel is unbothered, though Ars wishes she wouldn't drink right now. The battle begins, and Ars's siblings encourage everyone to do their best. Charlotte notices the imbalance between the teams but decides it doesn't matter as much. Muriel continues to push forward with a clear plan, despite her team's inexperience. She's aware of the challenges ahead, especially with the veteran Reich on the other side. While observing his training, she acknowledges his strength and respects Charlotte's skills, but she's curious about how Ars found such talented people. Muriel's team consists mostly of newbies, which she openly points out. The troops don't appreciate being called that, and Ars asks her to tone it down, but Muriel is undeterred and insists that they will win. She has a strategy and doesn't mind being unpopular if it means victory. Reich, meanwhile, lays out his strategy for his team, confident in their superior chances. He anticipates that Muriel will use projectiles and ambushes and plans to avoid these by engaging in direct combat. His troops will split into 2 groups, and he orders Russell's trailing group to call for help if they are ambushed. Reich is determined to secure a victory, relying on his team's experience. As the battle progresses, an explosion goes off, signaling a potential trap. Reich's team investigates and encounters one of Muriel's soldiers, who claims he wants to switch sides. At first, Reich thinks it's a trap, but the boy offers to reveal Muriel's strategy, so Reich listens. The boy reveals that Muriel planned to make them think a real attack was happening, only to ambush them when they rushed in to help. Some of the troops are shocked to learn that Ars agreed to this plan, but the boy insists he's switching sides. Reich, however, doubts this story and refuses to trust him. The boy admits he lied. He was acting under Muriel's instructions to feign betrayal. He confesses his dislike for Muriel because she often pushes her work onto others. The boy reveals that Muriel's real plan was to use him to signal her with a hidden staff. Reich has the boy detained and, upon finding the staff, realizes Muriel is setting a trap. With Muriel's army waiting for the signal, Reich plans to take advantage of their vulnerability by flanking them. His army moves silently in 2 groups to close in on Ars's side. Reich believes that if they can eliminate Ars, they will win, and they begin their attack. However, they are stunned to find that they've attacked a group of decoys. Muriel reveals that she had planned this all along, thanking the boy for his part in the deception. Reich is bewildered by Muriel's calm demeanor, but she explains that she trusts in her speed and stamina, and she's ready for a game of tag. She takes off running with Ars, with Reich and his army hot on their heels. The crowd watching grows louder as the chase intensifies, and Reich gets closer to Muriel. Despite Ars's worries, Muriel remains unfazed. Reich orders his troops to give it their all, and as they close in, Muriel reveals that she set up several traps to slow them down. Ars is amazed by the traps, but he's terrified when he sees Reich barreling through them. As Reich gets closer, Muriel signals for the next phase of their plan. She and Ars insert earplugs and use the magia magic to create an overwhelming sound, halting Reich and his troops in their track. Reich remains determined, quickly catching up to Muriel despite her best efforts to evade him. Ars, worried, sees Reich becoming more enraged. Leisha, watching from the sidelines, grows frustrated with Ars clinging to Muriel and starts cheering for Reich, hoping he'll beat Muriel. Meanwhile, Ars's siblings notice their troops are missing. Charlotte grows anxious about being too far from Reich's group. But Russell believes Reich has a good reason for rushing ahead and decides to maintain their position. Suddenly, Ars's troops ambush them, but Russell notices that only half the army is present. He quickly deduces that the other half must be with Reich and predicts no reinforcements are coming. With the forces roughly equal, Russell orders an attack, thinking they can defeat the newbies. However, the rookies reveal that Muriel had a plan. They would fight 2-on-1 since they were weaker. Then, the rest of the rookies show up, tipping the scales in Muriel's favor. Russell is shocked to realize that Reich's group is facing Muriel alone. Muriel had deliberately lured Reich and his men away to allow her rookies to overwhelm Russell's unit. As things take a turn for the worse, Charlotte decides to retreat, using a sound bomb to create some distance. Muriel, however, anticipated this move and is pleased, as it reveals Russell's position. Reich fears for Russell's safety as he continues closing in on Ars, but Muriel maintains her calm, her plan unfolding perfectly. As she charges toward Russell, Reich gives him a final order to keep running, confident he's almost caught Muriel. But Muriel's next move surprises everyone. She directs Ars to execute the next part of their strategy. Ars apologizes to Reich and uses sound orbs to slow him down, advancing Muriel's plan. To everyone's shock, Reich is unaffected by the orbs, preparing for the final strike. Another sound orb goes off, halting the chase, and when the smoke clears, Muriel has placed her sword on Russell's head, declaring victory for her team. Despite the odds, Muriel stays calm, impressing Ars with her coolness under pressure. Later, Ars announces Muriel as the winner, and the rookies celebrate. The veterans try to complain, accusing Muriel of using dirty tactics, but Reich silences them, pointing out that they were the stronger team and still lost. He tells them to accept the result, acknowledging Muriel's impressive victory. Though he still doesn't like her, Reich apologizes to Muriel for his previous rudeness and admits that he needs to learn from her. Russell, now understanding the reasoning behind Muriel's strategy, becomes more accepting of her leadership. Ars, however, fears Muriel will ruin the moment, but she surprises him by complimenting everyone's performance. She praises Russell for his strategic thinking and acknowledges that it was his idea to keep the groups at a distance that allowed the battle to last as long as it did. Muriel then turns to Ars, calling him the most remarkable of all for having such capable retainers. She wonders what Ars's next move will be, and he admits that his original goal was to build a strong domain to survive war, but now he wants to create a peaceful place where children can live without fear of conflict. To achieve that, Ars will need to become king. Everyone is taken aback, but Muriel believes he can do it and hopes he's ready to start. Ars, still in shock, recalls his father's words about him becoming a great man, even possibly an emperor. That night, the group celebrates their victory, with Muriel out-drinking several men and impressing the troops with her strength. They ask her to teach them how to be strong like her, but she gives credit to Reich's training program, claiming there's nothing more she can add. Russell, still feeling down about his lack of speed, reflects on how the battlefield requires more than just tactical thinking. Muriel is glad he understands and reminds him that he can't carry out strategies if he isn't alive to do so. Russell vows to run as she instructed, but Charlotte jokingly knocks him over. Muriel suggests Charlotte use magic to make him run faster, and Russell is left stunned by the strength and competitiveness of the girls. Laisha, feeling guilty about her previous jealousy, apologizes to Ars, who reassures her that it's okay. They are both pleased to see Muriel getting along with everyone. Reich then arrives, apologizing for not meeting expectations during the mock battle. Ars reassures him that he did well, but Reich feels ashamed, believing he failed to live up to a promise made to Raven. Ars, however, still believes in Reich and looks forward to continuing their work together. Reich vows to train harder. Ars brings up Muriel's suggestion that he could become emperor, but he doubts he could ever achieve such greatness. Reich, however, reveals that he agrees with Muriel. Ars admits that he wants to become Lord to end war, and he wonders what Reich thinks of that. Without hesitation, Reich promises to stand by Ars, vowing to clear a path for him as his loyal retainer. The next day, Laisha departs, and Ars promises to keep in touch with her. Muriel needs to be woken up, and Reich terrifies the troops with his intense training. Meanwhile, Russell is still running for his life, chased by Charlotte. Later, Ars receives a summons from Lord Chiron to join his war council. Ars asks Muriel to accompany them for her wisdom, and everyone agrees to go, though Barais reminds Charlotte it's a meeting, not a party. With that, they set off, ready to face whatever comes next.